Today's episode of the Bill Simmons Podcast on the Ringer Podcast Network is brought to you, as always, by ZipRecruiter. You know it's not smart? Not voting. It's election day. Go vote. Allow me to be the 10 millionth person in your life today who told you to vote. This is the most insufferable social media day of all time, I think. But you know what? We got pushed to this point. Go out there and vote. You know what else isn't smart? Job sites that overwhelm you with tons of the wrong resumes. Luckily, there's a smart way at ZipRecruiter.com/BS. They find people with the right skills for your job and actively invite them to apply. Right now, my listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free. I've been telling you this all year. It's free. ZipRecruiter.com/BS. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Meanwhile, SeatGeek is the best app for buying and selling tickets to sporting events, concerts, and more. We're in a nice little stretch here with NBA, NFL, college football, college basketball, hockey, concerts, all kinds of things. For $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase on any game or sporting event, use promo code BS. Download the SeatGeek app or go right to SeatGeek.com. If you love the Rewatchables podcast, we are doing a special one this week. Be on the lookout for that. I don't want to spoil the movie, but let's just say it's appropriately themed for all the stakes of all the things going on this week. And if you haven't subscribed to The Big Picture yet, I would encourage you to do so. This podcast I'm about to do, call my buddy JackO. We're going to talk about the election, and I'm going to rub the Red Sox World Series title on him. We're going to talk to my longtime friend and former colleague, Dan Klores, who directed the epic 20-hour basketball documentary, Basketball, A Love Story. It's on ESPN. It's on the ESPN Plus app. It is intense. I'm in it. It's my dramatic return to ESPN, kind of. So we're talking to him, and then we are going to run an interview I did with Greg Kinnear. Nephew Kyle's back.
Back.
From the World Tour. You
Alive.
survived.
Promised.
Nothing, no incriminating videos?
No, there's a questionable picture where my eyes were closed, but I don't think it's because I was drinking. It was right after the show. So
the One Shining Pod Tour, you hit 3 cities.
3 cities.
And they're doing one more. Chicago sold out this week.
Sold out. I hope you guys have fun.
Yeah.
Good luck running
You
the
miss
show.
them? Did you cry when you left?
No, it was time.
It's time to go?
It was time to go.
That's a long time to be with Titus.
In the car.
Yeah. Titus is about 72 hours.
You're right. You're right.
Tate might be 96.
Yeah, Tate was fine. Tate's got a way to, he leaves off and comes back. You know, we're not sure where he went.
The One Shining Pod, they're going to the college basketball opener tonight, which this is going to be a cool season because of Zion Mania, which is really starting to gain some steam, as well as about 100 different scandals. But they're going to record a podcast. Are they doing it tonight after the games?
I told them they have to do it at some point. I think they'll do it tonight after the games.
Okay. So check out the One Shining Podcast if you want to hear their reactions to all that stuff. And check out Titus's college basketball preview, which is on theringer.com right now. All right. We're going to call JackO first. Pearl Jam. On the line right now, my longtime friend, my former colleague, my one phone call when I'm in jail, Dan Klores. How are you?
I'm good, Billy. How you doing, man?
So Basketball Love Story is on the ESPN Plus app. It's been running on ESPN in 4-hour blocks. The last one runs next week, 20 hours total. You and me and like 7 other people are the biggest basketball fans alive. You were always destined to throw yourself into some crazy NBA project. How long did this take?
Well, actually, it's, as you know, it's much more than NBA. It took me from the start to finish 20 hours, 4.5 years. That only makes sense if one understands that it takes me 2 years to do a 90-minute film.
Yeah.
This is 20 hours in 4.5 years.
Yeah. It's a lot of time. You had a lot to say.
Yeah.
We started working together. You did in the first round of 30 for 30s. You did the Reggie Miller documentary that And now I know so much more about how the whole process works. But back in 2007, 8, 9, just learning on the fly. Oh, that's an interesting way to do it. And how many people did you interview for that one? Like 60?
For Reggie?
Yeah.
Reggie winning time must have been about 50.
Yeah, 50.
40 to 45 to 50, yes.
Which it was like a 60-minute film. And
90 minutes. 90 minutes.
Oh, was it 90 minutes?
Oh, 75. 75 minutes. And it took me 2 years. 75 minutes. That's right.
Yeah, we ended up bumping it past whatever you're supposed to do. And
right.
You threw yourself into it and you did so many interviews. And I was like, wow, I like this guy. This is how I would do one of these. I would just interview way too many people and throw myself into it like this. So then when I heard you were doing this basketball project, I was like, oh my God, he might interview everyone who's ever been to a basketball game. But where'd you end up with? Like 160?
Well, you know what's great is we did 165 interviews.
Wow.
The average length of the interview was 2 hours and 25 minutes. Russell for 5.5 hours. I interviewed Oscar for 6. And every single person that I interviewed is in the film. That's never happened before. There needs to be, at a certain point, a ruthlessness in making the movie.
Yeah.
Where when I did Crazy Love, I cut out my own mother and father. I had a segment on elder people in love. Cut them out.
Yeah.
When I did The Boys of Second Street Park, I interviewed 2 Holocaust survivors. One was cut out. There's a ruthlessness to it. Every single person. Because you don't want to be... Then the right thing to do is... I mean, when I did Ring of Fire, the Emil Griffith story, I had the absolute, Billy, pleasure, honor to interview Bud Schulberg.
Yeah.
Who was then about 90 years old. And how to cut him out of the movie. Who the hell am I to cut out Bud Schulberg? But I had to do it, and I was and you have to notify people. You can't have them come to a premiere or go to the movies or turn on the television and they think they're on it. They can't do so. I had to make up some excuse for Bud Schulberg that the interview got screwed up because of the sound and light.
Yeah, the audio was off. Yeah, you were working on this for a few years, and now how many people died that you interviewed that are in this film that are now no longer with us?
Too many people passed.
Connie Hawkins.
Well, Moses. The first person I interviewed was Jack Ramsey because I knew he was ill, and I interviewed him 4 hours in his home in Naples, Florida, and he sat for 4 hours and couldn't stand and was ingenious as you would expect. So I dedicate the film to my own father, who passed recently, and to Ben Jobe, my dear, dear, dear friend, the great coach at HBCUs, and Ben passed a year and a half ago. Connie Hawkins, Mel Daniels, Michael Goldberg,
Moses,
Dolph Shays. It's why I didn't interview you, because I didn't want to put that jinx on you.
That's true. Not true. Not only did you interview me, not only am I the breakout star of the documentary, but it's my dramatic return to ESPN. I'm back, baby.
Yeah. Good luck to you.
I was very excited to be in the Spurs one about the 2013 Game 6, which is still
you were great, man.
The most unbelievable non-Celtics basketball game that I've been to. Great. And I still can't believe it. And I had like 105-degree fever, and I still remember chunks of it. Yeah, I was super sick. The finals broke me down.
Now that makes sense, because when I come to you in that story, you're hoarse. You're at that booth, right?
Yeah, I'm in afterwards. Yeah.
Afterwards, you're hoarse. Your voice is hoarse, and you're red in the face.
Yeah, I was really sick. I had to get like NBA doctors and stuff. My body just broke down. But
I didn't know that, but now it makes perfect sense. I thought that you were cheering and you were talking too much,
Or you thought, or that I was like doing drugs or something. Yeah, I looked like Bradley Cooper in A Star Is Born.
I had no idea that you were sick, man.
So we should mention, before I forget, all of the interviews you did were condensed and orchestrated in a beautiful book that is an oral history that kind of weaves through, I don't know, 70, 80 years of basketball. It was edited by Jackie McMullen and my old Grantland teammate, Rafe Bartholomew.
Who you turned me on to.
Yeah, he did a
well,
great
not
job.
all of the interviews. There's an oral history book, of course, called Basketball Love Story, and they did a great job. And it was a beautiful, beautiful pleasure to select them and work with them, and because I never saw two people who didn't know one another work more comfortably and openly and respectfully with each other. You know, there was never an issue, and they just did a great job. And there's probably a couple of more books coming out of the interviews.
Good.
And just like when I think I told you the other day, in the end of your book, you gave me this idea. You mentioned that you did this book, but there are so many issues you didn't get to, and I'm paraphrasing. Analytics and one and done, and NBA is a gigantic business. And I remember when I read your book, which I read twice. And by the way, it's the only book other than the Halberstam book on Jack Ramsey that I read in preparation for my research.
Oh, I appreciate that.
No other book.
Thank you.
Nothing. And I was completely, I have to say this, preparation is so much of this. You can't walk into a room and not be completely prepared and think you know everything about who you're sitting with, because trust is paramount, of course.
Yeah.
But when you wrote that, I said to myself at the initial stage of planning, well, I have to get to these areas that Simmons was talking about. And I did. And most of them actually, like analytics and NCAA pay to play, are coming up on November 13th, the last two episodes. My take on analytics and, well, not my take, the take on analytics and the take on NCAA. So you gave me those ideas, which I think is also much part of the process, don't you? We learn from one another. Don't you think that?
Yeah, and I think basketball changes so much decade to decade. You know, I wrote that book in 2009, and think of all the stuff that's happened since then. I mean, I'd love to write a sequel. I don't know if my fingers work anymore, but
I know you have. Oh, by the way, you know who called me yesterday? And I spoke to him for an hour, and he called me cold. You ready?
Yeah.
Bob Cousy.
The Coos.
Yes.
Sharp as a tack still, apparently. Age
sharp
90.
As a tack.
Yeah.
90 years old. You know what? I'm 68, and he called me kid, so I love him.
Oh, that's phenomenal. Yeah, but you think about this decade, though, you know, since I wrote that book, we had The Decision, and now the player empowerment, and everybody just jumping teams, and kind of the millennial era, and nobody's ever seems to be happy for more than 2 to 3 years. And this is starting to feel like its own era. And this those stuff that's happening now with Jimmy Butler in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Is
what would you call this era, though? That's an interesting
empowerment. It's the player empowerment era. It really is.
It needs a catchy name, you know.
Well, that's your job. You come up with it. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Name. It's basically like the players have taken control of the league in every way, and they just have so much power. And I think a lot of it has to do with the social media and just their ability to reach people directly now. That's another thing that happened this decade is you have players don't need the media like they did. And even like, I'm sure you had trouble, you know, you had LeBron James sit down for this, and there's a really good, I'd say 15-minute thing about The Decision that was the first time I'd ever really heard him talk candidly about it. But, every player you went to, you have to go to the guy who controls their life, and then another, you know, it's a whole process. It's like trying to get the president, right?
Yeah, no, the contemporary players are, of course, more difficult to reach than the people who are retired. But what I learned actually, as interesting, the contemporary players that I interviewed, LeBron James and Kevin Durant, and Steph Curry, and Anthony Davis, Nowitzki, Chris Paul.
Yeah.
These guys, most of them, fascinating because their knowledge of the game, when you really talk the intricacies of the game with them, they're right on. When you remove all the ego bullshit, right?
Right.
And you start talking to them, you go back to that San Antonio-Miami series, right? And all of a sudden, as you know, for like 2 or 3 possessions in the entire game 3. All of a sudden, Popovich goes to a half court 1-3-1.
Right.
And you're talking about that stuff. That's great stuff. Or I have scenes called signature moves, and I'm talking to Kevin Durant is describing how he plays off the double team and often feigns so a guy does come and double team him. That's great stuff. What knowledge of the game? Or LeBron, his signature move, in my view, going rim to rim and looking at the floor, as he says himself, as a NASCAR driver. I like that stuff.
And you're right. Those guys, there's an appreciation of the previous generations that I think this generation has. I'm not sure the guys in the 80s had it. The guys in the 90s definitely didn't have it.
Well, I don't want to generalize. I don't know enough.
You know what? I'm going to generalize. That's part of what I do. No, I just feel like the guys in the 80s, they showed up and they had probably one player they idolized, but they didn't know about the history of the 30 years, 40 years of the NBA, stuff like that. The guys in the 90s just want to get paid.
The history is one thing. I'm saying something different. I'm talking about the appreciation of the depth of the game. When Chris Paul is talking about, and I think I know the game really well. I've coached the game for many, many years. But when Chris Paul is talking about how he defends the 2-on-1 break, and he's the one, and asks me the question on camera, and therefore it's translated in the film, where does his hands belong when he's the one defending the 2-on-1? Should he hold his hands high or should he just hold his hands low? And I'm sitting there saying, I'm 50-50 on my guess. And he explains he holds them high. So then they're going to have to make the pass low, and he could drop his hands and potentially get the steal. If he holds them low, they're going to throw the alley-oop. That's great stuff.
Yeah,
that's great stuff.
These guys have so much more intelligence now, too, from the last, I would say it's probably the last 15 years when, as the internet got better and better and the ability for people to just cut, all right, you're playing this team.
Well, I know your favorite player in terms of IQ is J.R. Smith, so I kind of, I'm not sure I agree with you on that one, but they
Come on.
Some of the guys really know the history of the game because of what you say. They're looking at it. Kevin Durant. He sat in the interview and he's talking about Bernard King. I don't think he was even born when Bernard King was around.
Yeah. Well, I do wonder, if NBA TV and ESPN Classic, to a lesser degree, these guys grew up with just old games were on and YouTube and being able to be like, oh, I like Bernard King. I'm going to go on YouTube and watch him for 15 minutes. But in the 90s, you couldn't do that.
Exactly right. But you know what it says also? It says that they were serious at an early age.
Yeah.
That's what it says. They were serious at an early age. And the other day I see that Houston play Chicago, and Wendell Carter played for Chris Paul in the AAU. And now they're playing against each other.
Wow.
So my point is that type of seriousness that rubs off Chris Paul into a kid like Wendell Carter and his mother, who's very serious also, it paid its dividend. There are a lot of great people and good people associated with the game of basketball. Not an accident. Ready for this? That the few people, 4 or 5, that have sent me notes, this is not an accident, I contend, that they love the film and blah, blah, blah. You ready?
Yeah.
Come from UCLA, Jerry Norman, Wooden's assistant, Mike Krzyzewski, Duke, Pat Riley, right? Bob Cousy. Can you think of bigger winners?
Right. Well, you had one of the things you had was about how winning is basically just relief and doesn't actually feel good, which I actually felt that last week when my beloved Red Sox won the World Series. I was so much more upset when we lost the 18-inning game. It ruined my whole weekend. And the emotion I had for that and how mad I was and upset and crushed by that loss versus when we actually won, there's no comparison. The emotion just wasn't as intense.
There's a scene, you're right. There's a scene that I came up with along the way, and it came from something else. I wanted to do a story on Al McGuire. And I remember in 1977, his last game ever, you were too young,
I watched that game. How dare you? I was like 8. I saw that game.
You talk. By the way, everyone should know that in my scene in 1976 Boston Phoenix playoff game 5, my contention may be the greatest NBA playoff game of all time.
Yeah, I'm in that. I'm in that one.
And you're in that scene. Boston Garden Friday night starts at 9:00. As you say, that's a bad idea. Everyone is drunk, and you say, paraphrasing, I was 6 years old. I was there, and even I was drunk.
Yeah, I probably was.
I think it's a question for child welfare if the statute of
I was an only child. It was the 70s. My parents just brought me everywhere.
but now I go to Al McGuire the next year, so you're 7 years old, and he cries on the bench after he wins a national championship.
Yeah.
It's announced as his last game ever. And I use the idea that here he is crying as here's a man crying out of joy. Now the idea is, when a coach finally wins, not when Bill Simmons finally wins, do you feel joy or relief? That's my way of telling the Al McGuire story. Then we cut to 20 coaches, all champions. They each express their attitude, and it's a great scene. And then I cut back to Al McGuire when he passes away at a young age. And so that's, do you feel joy or relief? You felt, when the Red Sox just won, what did you feel, relief or joy when they just won?
Relief.
By the way, when Willie McCovey died a couple of days ago, I was a Giants fan. 1962, I'm 12 years old. He hits the line drive. Richardson stabs it. 1-0 victory for the Yankees, Game 7, bottom of the 9th. When Willie McCovey passed the other day, it meant a lot to me, man. A lot to me. When I saw Bobby Richardson years ago at South Carolina, I was playing racquetball outside. He was the baseball coach. He walked by. I yelled at him. I said, Bobby. He turned around. I gave him the finger. That's it.
I have
Truth.
This century, the joy ones for me were when the Pats won their first Super Bowl, and when they won the crazy Super Bowl when they stopped the Seahawks with the interception. Okay.
We're
just like unequivocal, like going crazy. And then obviously the 2004 Red Sox, Game 4, Game 5. After that, it was more like a life experience. There was no joy, you were just dead inside from the emotion. You know, when sports goes too far and you become like a serial killer almost. You don't have the capacity to feel anymore. That's where I landed in 2004.
But coming up on the 13th, speaking of emotion, is a big, like a lot of great stuff coming up, but it's the big Shaq, Kobe, Phil Jackson scene. That's a 28-minute story where Kobe and Shaq are really going after each other, and there's great humor in it also, I find. But boy, they're not pulling any punches in that scene. Did you see that scene?
I didn't see that one yet. But that's running this week, right?
Yeah, on the 13th it runs, but I use that. Shaq actually says, like Phil Jackson told us to cool it down, and all of a sudden I cut to Jim Gray giving Kobe's corporate line anti-Shaq, and Shaq says, I called Kobe up right then and there. I said, when you come to practice, I'm going to kill you. He says it on camera, man. He also calls, and then Kobe says, yeah, I'm ready for you, man. I'm ready. And they had to call Brian Shaw to fly in from Denver to make sure he was in the locker room to break it up.
Well, those guys need to get their story straight because they absolutely hated each other when they played.
Yeah.
And they hate each other after they were not teammates anymore. And then a few years passed, and then it became like, no, actually, we didn't hate each other. It's like, no, you hated each other. Just stop.
No, they're in the film. They're saying it. I mean, you don't have to use the word hate when you can hear all the other things that they're saying. I mean, they're opening up, but to their credit, and now this goes, I think, to your point about today's players. To their credit, they won 3 championships. They stayed together. Then it split. But you think people think Kyrie Irving and LeBron could have stayed together for 3 years? Obviously, no.
Wait, hold on. I have thoughts on this. Let's take a quick break. Let's talk about Casper mattresses. Casper is a sleep brand that continues to revolutionize its line of products to create an exceptionally comfortable sleep experience one night at a time with 3 mattress models, the original Casper, the Wave, the Essential. Casper mattresses are perfectly designed to soothe and cradle your natural geometry, not to mention the breathable design helps you sleep cool and regulate your body temperature throughout the night. Kyle, when you finally get out of this crappy apartment you're in,
I can't wait.
Move to a better one. Maybe get a Casper mattress. Would you want the original Casper, the Wave, or the Essential?
The Essential sounds like the one I need.
All right, we'll try to get you an Essential. It's delivered right to your door in a small, how do they do that size box with free shipping, returns in the U.S. and Canada. The best part, you can be sure of your purchase with Casper's 100-night risk-free sleep on a trial. You spend 1/3 of your life sleeping. You should be comfortable. They've sent me one. Guess what happens? You sleep better when you have a good mattress. I can vouch for this. It's happened to me. Get $50 towards select mattresses by visiting Casper.com/BS using BS at checkout. Casper.com/BS. Offer code BS. $50 off your mattress purchase. Terms and conditions apply. All right, we're back. I actually think I think I wrote this in my book, so I don't want to plagiarize myself, but I'm going to anyway. I think the over-under for championships for those two guys together was like 5.5. I think they were way under. Shaq and Kobe ended up with 3.
Yes.
And if you look at the way the decade was set up for them,
right.
And just the fact that the league was pretty talent poor last decade compared to now, there's so much more talent right now, especially with like the under 27 guys. Than there were in the 2000s for a variety of reasons. They really could have just kept winning. And I feel the same way now about the Warriors where, I think they're going to win again. And then it's going to become a question for Durant whether he just wants to be on a dynasty or not. But that team should win 5 or 6 straight. And, that's the over-under for me.
I don't disagree, but the arbitrary over-under number that you laid out, 5.5, I mean, it doesn't reflect after the tension during the third year and the third championship, and then the owners come to Shaq and say, we're not giving you a raise. And he says in the film, what are you talking about? We just won 3 championships. And they say, well, we're sorry. And apparently Kobe had a lot to do with that decision. It was, well, we're going to keep one. If we got to keep one, we're keeping the young stud. And Shaq says in the film, he didn't know about that he was going to be up in the marketplace until he heard it on the news. In fact, it's actually funny. He says, I was eating my Fruity Loops in the morning mixed with Cheerios when I heard that. So, but these are the things. I say Bob Cousy called yesterday, players never left. Dynasties were built. By the way, Phil Jackson in the film, which I think I don't agree with it at all. He says Popovich's teams were not a dynasty. He quotes Webster's on what a dynasty is. What do you think? San Antonio a dynasty or not?
I wrote a column about this 10 years ago. I think there's a different word than dynasty.
Go ahead.
So, I think I combined it with contender. Mm-hmm. They were like a dynasty contender. It was like a dynatendersty or something. I made up some fake word for it. Not quite a dynasty, but more like an Uber contender.
Yeah.
They had the 02-03.
Yeah.
They won that season.
Yeah.
They really should have won in 04 or at least been in the finals, and the Fisher shot just kind of flung them out. But I think that if they had won 3 in a row there, I have a problem when a team can't even win back to back.
Yeah.
I feel like that's got to be at least part of a dynasty discussion.
But it goes to, I tried to pay attention in the film to a lot of championship teams that people don't get their due, both in college and the pros. Kansas, 86. Florida, back-to-back. Billy Donovan's team, back-to-back. Just beautiful teams. Arkansas, Nolan Richardson. Pros, Dallas, the Carlisle team. Detroit, the Larry Brown team. Seattle and Washington, who never would have been champions if Walton doesn't get hurt.
Yeah.
Now, that would have been a dynasty. They could have won a minimum 3, if not 4, or maybe more if Walton doesn't get hurt. Part of the big difference, and even Larry Brown says when he wins and he comes out of the blue, right? He beats the Lakers. He beats the Lakers with that Detroit team. But you know what happened to that team? management got rid of players 6, 7, and 8. And that's the nature of a championship team. It's not only the 5. And that's what Golden State could face.
Well, then there's the flip side of it, which is what the Celtics are going through now, where you have too many guys. This is the rarely seen too many guys contender where nobody's happy because nobody's getting enough minutes and everybody thinks
right? No one's happy on the Celtics. I didn't know that. That's too bad.
No, I don't think it's. I think it's fixable. I think it's treatable. Yeah. I don't think it's herpes. I think it might just be a cold sore.
I'll tell you. That's when I know I don't know anything because, I mean, I love watching Duke play, and I went to the Garden, Tatum's only year there, and I liked him a lot, and I concluded that, I don't know, he doesn't play that hard, doesn't play any defense, so I never thought he'd make it, so I know I'm an idiot. So.
Well, no, but
he's just beautiful to watch, man.
It's tough for you to really know what's going on with the current NBA because your team is such an albatross in your life, the New York Knicks. I mean, I don't blame you for hating. You just have to live in the past with all these old things that already happened.
I was in the Garden last night and saw them play the Bulls, and I have to say that either they're feeling it out, they're feeling the process out, the coaches are feeling it out or not, but I felt there was one bad move after another that lost in that game. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I mean, they let Parker go crazy and never put the person on him. The whole and Zach LaVine, who's really good.
He's been a surprise.
Only the last possession in double overtime, they throw a double team at him.
Yeah,
they went 1-on-1.
Do you buy?
And he was killing them.
Do you buy the whole thing that? You know, and I think this is coming from Knicks fans, but this whole thing where Durant's going to go to New York. Do you think?
I don't know. I have no idea.
No, I'm not asking if you have inside information. I'm asking, do you think the Knicks matter like that to current players? Like, do you think they see the value of being in New York City? And if they were on the right Knicks team that kind of took over the city
I
and
don't
contended?
know, but obviously things have changed and money is money now and you can make money no matter what market you're in. But there's still a great attraction to playing in New York. And this group, no, they're a pretty good group that are running it now, and all they need is a little bit of luck. I don't know how Porzingis is going to be. No one knows that. I mean, that's difficult to come back from, and especially since he doesn't play with his back to the basket. What I was amazed about last night is the role of the big man. I mean, did the kid from Denver have 16 assists the other night? Did I read that right?
No, Jamal Murray had. Yeah, he had a triple double, I think, but Jamal Murray had.
Yeah, he had 49
points,
but 16 assists from a big man.
I know.
When was the last time that?
Well, he's basically Sabonis. I mean, we always talked about what would it be like if Sabonis had been healthy in the NBA in the mid-late 80s.
Yeah.
And now Jokic is in here, and he's basically doing
And we interviewed Sabonis for the film and Marshallonis, and Bob Ryan has a great line about Sabonis when he comes to the NBA in the film. He says, yeah, he was many leg injuries and many vats of vodka away from what he used to be.
Yeah, I saw that.
But the footage we have of Sabonis is really
God.
great.
Was there any? You told so many different stories in this. Was there anyone that didn't make the cut that now that this is finished, you're like, oh man, I should have put that one in there?
Any story?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean,
like Moses isn't the Moses 83 Sixers.
Moses
isn't in
got
there, right?
cut. That championship team. That was strictly a matter of ESPN pressuring me on time, so I had to cut that scene, which was a drag. But the scene that I made, which is and you saw it, is on the melee in Detroit, and that scene didn't make it. There were issues with in terms of some of the licensing on that, and that's a great scene. And I love that scene because I not only got into the players and the coaches, Larry's in it and Carlisle's in it, and a bunch of the players are in it, and Artest is all over it. But then I cut to what's happening behind the scenes. David Stern gets the call Friday night. He's in his bathrobe, eating an English muffin with peanut butter and jelly. Russ Granite coming home from the wife and the movies, and so I tell all of that. And I joke with Artest. He doesn't know I'm joking. I said, well, I heard it wasn't beer in your face. It might have been Coca-Cola. Oh, no, man, that was definitely a beer. I tasted it. And then footage of our friend West on the floor. There's a lot of brawls in the movie, man.
I didn't know we were allowed to talk about the Artest section.
Well, we are now. I can talk about anything I want.
You screened that for me.
Yeah.
And I thought that was one of the best 16-minute stretches I've seen of any sort of documentary for sports, period, basketball, whatever.
Yeah, well,
what was interesting about it was the NBA actually comes off really well in it. And you watch it and you go, oh yeah, as awful as this incident was, it actually was ultimately a good thing. It led to all of these different things, and it really made the NBA kind of look at each other, everyone who runs the league look at each other and go, all right, what are we going to do? How do we fix this? How do we make sure this doesn't happen again? And they did.
Absolutely. It was fun making it. Look, you can't get everything that you want. I have zero hard feelings. Coming up is another one of my favorite scenes that Bill Simmons is a star in, and that's on the 2004 Olympic team. That was a debacle.
Oh, my God.
And I mean, a debacle.
I was calling that on page 2 before the Olympics. I bet on Argentina. I was like, you got to be Marbury. Who was it? Marbury and Francis were the point guards? What were they doing?
No, Marbury and Iverson.
Oh, Marbury and Iverson.
Guard.
That was even worse.
Even worse.
Oh, my God. And all the young kids were on it.
Can you imagine the constraint? And you got 4 rookies named LeBron James, Wade, Carmelo Anthony, and someone else.
And
right?
I think Bosh. Is Bosh on it? Yeah.
Carmelo Anthony got his mother's call and wants to take him home.
Yeah.
Because he's not playing. I mean, but it led to. And this is where leadership comes. People say, well, why is the NBA this way and baseball's not, football not? My answer is pretty simple. It's leadership. It's leadership. I mean, like, David Stern, it was a brilliant leader. It's not an accident. You can't just say it was Bird and Magic coming into the NBA. If we didn't have the right leader there to understand how to maximize this and maximize Michael Jordan and all of that, and understand marketing and understand globalism, and training Adam, and Adam being Adam. I mean, brilliant in his own way, different type of personality, and that transition was effortless. That's leadership. I don't know enough about the current baseball commissioner to make any intelligent observation, but I know that the NFL. I mean, give me a break, man. Give me a break.
Well, you say it was effortless. I would say it probably should have happened 4 years earlier than it did.
Well, you know what? Things are meant to be. I wanted to make this movie, Billy, many years ago. Dick Ebersol was unbelievably gracious, but turned me down. Adam and Jeff Zucker brought me to him. Then ESPN said yes. And then Skipper called me and said, "Sorry, we ran out of money." And we don't have the money. And I did Black Magic. If that conversation doesn't happen, I don't do Black Magic. If Ebersol doesn't turn me down, I don't do Crazy Love. So that's the way life is. I mean, it's about preparation. It's not only about having the right mentor. It's about being the best possible student.
Have you? I mean, we should, full disclosure, Adam is one of your good friends.
I love Adam. And I love David too.
But I love Adam
to death.
Now an incredibly powerful person who runs a league that has never been doing better ever at any point.
I love Adam to death.
Years.
I have unbelievable respect for him. He's a younger guy. He's worked his behind off. I have great respect for David Stern. Both of them and the league are instrumental in me being allowed to make this film. And many people, Donnie Walsh, I mean, the people that opened doors for me, Bob Ryan, you, I mean, there's just, Jack Ramsey's son and Dolph Shays' son and John Thompson. I mean, they're just, really, I find out about the game that there is the commonality is not only global, but it's within.
Yeah.
It is a shared love, you know? And I say this, that I'm not sure about this, but long-form documentary filmmaking now, why does it have to be linear? Why does it have to be chronological? Why does it have to be viewed as a history? I didn't do that. You know, it's short stories. So someone could come up that's infinitely smarter than me and do the same type of take on music or on comedy, right? Or on the theater or on dance. The same way. If I open this film with James Naismith, I'm snoring, but he comes up in the fourth scene. In the third story, P.J. Carlissimo is getting choked by Spreewell. I chose to do it that way.
Right.
I chose to do it that way, man.
Well, I brought up Adam because, you know, he's on a really good run right now, but you've known him for a lot of years. Is there an embarrassing story you can tell us about him? Is there a funny story? Is there some sort of quirky Adam Silver? Quirky, some sort of quirky something?
No,
something?
I'm not going to tell you an embarrassing story about Adam Silver.
Come on.
I'm going to tell you that one of his key aides got laid at my wedding. That's all I'm going to say. That's as far as I'm going.
Okay.
Okay?
Very fair. What was your favorite Bill Simmons performance in your documentary? I went third person there. What's the key scene for fans of this podcast? What's the key out of all of these ones that I'm in? What's the one you should tell people? Go watch him in this one. He's really bringing it.
Wait, I mean, everyone knows that we're only kidding. You're not in the movie, right? They know that, right? You know, there were a couple of people I wouldn't agree, and I'm still pissed at you for not agreeing to be in it. You know?
How dare you? I'm still mad that the air test
Bill
melee.
Simmons moment in this movie. Okay, I'm not sure if it's my favorite, but I do the scene on the first lottery, right?
Yeah,
and which is a really funny scene, you know. And
I love that one.
And you're, of course, like, you know, you call it the greatest magic trick you've ever seen. Don't know if it could ever be repeated in terms of the envelope.
Yeah,
but
Stern.
That wasn't my favorite line. My favorite line from you was when it turned up the Knicks, and I come to you and you say, "So what? The Knicks got them. They suck anyway.
Yeah.
They'll still beat them." That was a funny line.
That's the thing with the Knicks is they've been terrible forever. The guy who turned me on to that was Bill Russell. Bill Russell was like, these guys, the Knicks are always awful. Of course we're going to beat them.
As much as I hate to give you any credit,
yeah.
And I realize this conversation is completely about you. Okay. As much as I hate to give you any credit, you were very astute at certain points. And especially when LeBron comes to Miami the first time. And that's what people don't understand. And you hit it on the head. I mean, you I think you called the dueling banjos. It's my possession, LeBron, his mine for Wade. And they don't win that year.
No.
And that's the element, the missing element of a championship team is, you know, chemistry is a word, but what does chemistry really mean? It means you have a leader that defines the correct roles and everyone buys into them. That's what it means.
It wasn't until Wade got a little banged
exactly
up.
Where I was going.
Yeah, that's
it wasn't
when
until Wade got hurt. People don't realize that Wade, and you say this, was the alpha dog in that relationship.
Yeah.
But so LeBron, because of his personality, was psychologically looking for Wade, and at the same time, all the pressure on him. Oh, I'm LeBron. I got to do this myself. It didn't work. They didn't win it all. The next year, Wade has an injury, and you point this out, and now LeBron steps up. That's not a knock on anyone. That's how we all progress. We continue to learn. It was a great opening for LeBron James as a basketball player and as a teammate. And now they start winning.
But Wade still had to let it happen.
And that's you finish my sentence. Wade still had to let it happen. That's exactly right. It's Earl Monroe and Walt Frazier in 1973.
Right.
Earl Monroe, 28 a game. He comes to the Knicks, and it's Frazier's team, and he gives of himself. Could that have happened if it was Frazier coming to Earl Monroe's team? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, you saw
that
it
before.
You saw it with the Warriors these last 2 years. On paper, that could have gone badly, but Curry is such an unusual superstar. He doesn't need the ball that much. He's incredibly fun to play with. The space that he creates. Now he can take 5 shots and still have a dramatic impact on the game.
You know,
and him and Durant together, it's perfect.
I was there for the final, I think, this year when it was in Cleveland when Golden State won, or maybe next to last game. And I thought, frankly, that Curry should have won the MVP in the finals. And I was watching it, and he never blinked when they gave it to Durant. He
doesn't care.
Blinked.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Right? It says so much. You know, I love coming up on the 13th. I have a lot on Steph Curry and Golden State in there, a lot on Cleveland, San Antonio, Miami. But my favorite thing in the whole film is when we're talking about Steph Curry and the footage, and Pete Vesey is talking about how he knows the angles off the backboard, and he's going, look at him, the angles. And Vesey goes, how could you not get off on watching him, the angles? And I cut to the original Hustler film with Paul Newman and Jackie Gleason and go back and forth as Paul Newman's describing Minnesota Fats playing the angles off the billiards table, the Curry, the angles. I enjoyed making that. You know,
that's awesome.
I enjoyed making that. I hope people like that part.
Yeah, Curry, he's taken it up a notch this year. He was always kind of the stealth MVP candidate. I think he was 12-1 odds. We talked about it on one of our basketball podcasts before. Like there was a case that he could still go up a level, and it seems like he's actually going up a level, which I wouldn't have bet on, but
I agree with you.
There's a chance he's going to be like a 55%, 50% three-point shooter, 55% from the field, 90% free throw shooter. 50-50, 55-50-90 is actually in play for him, which is insane.
No. I mean,
it's insane.
And you know what? They came to the Garden the other day. They are so much fun to watch.
I know. People forgot. I love it. I love having them. I would not change a thing.
But one of my favorite parts of them coming to the Garden is his maniac Cousins. He's in plain clothes on the bench. He gets thrown out of the game.
I know.
He gets a double T. Thrown out of the game.
What a loon.
I mean, that'll be fun to see how that plays out. How's the Lakers doing, man? When is the ball father going to break out now?
Well, it's like the countdown's on. It'll be in the next week because Rondo's getting minutes over runs. I didn't think it would be early. I actually thought they might be paying him off to shut up, but now I think he's going to start spreading his wings soon. He needs to get his son traded.
That's funny. I think they probably will pay.
The weirdest thing is LeBron is so detached. It's like really unusual. And we've seen him do this before when he doesn't like the coach or he's not really happy with whatever's going on. And he has the ability to just go on autopilot and still be really good. But when he's invested, and he's not invested yet. And I don't know whether it's the new uniforms and the new city and just like all the Kobe lovers that are still here. And there's a little resentment toward him. And I don't know what the dynamics are, whether he just doesn't like the coach that much, whether he doesn't love his team yet, whether he thought Kawhi Leonard was going to be joining him. I don't know. But I don't have this sense like it's the first time I can ever remember in the history of an NBA superstar free agent where he doesn't seem like he wants to impress his new fans. You know, the new guy comes in like, hey man, I just want everybody to like me. And he doesn't really feel that way this time.
You know, I'm not sure I disagree. I mean, there seems to be a lot on his plate, you know.
It's a red flag.
A lot on his plate. I thought actually Rondo getting thrown out and suspended, was it for 2 games? Hurt that team because even though they lost 1 or 2 games, I thought Rondo was playing great.
Yeah, that
great.
I'm not giving I mean, it's so freaking early.
It's too early.
Yeah,
that's right.
And they have a lot of young players, and LeBron's got to figure out. He's got to process everyone's info into his chess computer.
It's too early. That's right. And I think Tyson Chandler. I mean, look, he's older and all of that, but you know what? He'll throw an elbow in someone's face, man. You know,
right? Yeah.
They don't have that, man. You know, he'll smack you, and that's good for that team.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun season. All right, so Dan Klores' documentary, Basketball Love Story. It is available, the entire thing. You can watch any of it on the ESPN Plus app, but ESPN's been running it a lot. The last batch is running Tuesday night, November 13th, right?
Right.
And then
4 hours.
And then it's on all the time. And the cool thing about this, and why I think it's going to have such a long shelf life on ESPN, and we saw this with some of the 30 for 30s, that you can kind of jump in at any time. Like, oh, that part's coming up. I'll watch this 20 minutes. The way you design this, it's all 10 to 15 to 20-minute kind of stories. You can jump in at any time, and that's it. They're digestible. So I think that I could see this being on ESPN for years and years, and I hope it is, because I really liked it. And I'm not done watching it, by the way, because you made it 20 freaking hours.
20 hours, baby. And my Bill Simmons over-under, I think that should be a contest. That if I'm setting the over-under in terms of minutes for you in a 20-hour film, I want the audience to understand this as 18 and a half. For those people who get the over, right? ESPN is who bet correctly on this. The correct betting date is November 12th. They bet it and get it right. ESPN is doing a taco burger for every single person.
That's not true. Right. We can't say that. Look, I should have been in every segment. I actually feel like I didn't get the ball enough. I didn't get enough shots off. I had a great usage rate for my time. I had good stats. Very proud of my box score in this documentary.
Right.
Dan Klores, congratulations on this. Thanks for coming on. Don't forget to check out the book, too, on Amazon if you're looking for a Christmas gift.
Right.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Let's talk about G Suite, a suite of cloud-based productivity tools that includes Gmail, Docs, Slides, Sheets, and Drive. I use all of those things. These tools improve your work life, both in terms of your experience and the outputs you create. Hence, their new campaign, Make It with G Suite. You know, when you have 20 identical versions of a document labeled final, and no clue which is the latest, well, you make another version and name that one final, right? I mean, I have documents called final. With G Suite by Google Cloud, a range of work apps like Gmail, Docs, and Slides let you make real-time updates to the same document without having to keep track of version after version of a product. And since all the tools are cloud-based, your whole team can access the same document and work on the same page at the same time. To find out more about G Suite's productivity tools, visit gsuite.com. Make It with G Suite by Google Cloud. All right, on the line right now, my buddy JackO. It is election day. We're taping this. It is 11:06 a.m. Pacific time. Lord knows how today is going to play out. All I know is it's already the most annoying day in the history of social media. Johnny, has everyone in your life that you've ever met told you to vote today or what?
They have. I'm just thankful for the countless veterans who came before us who died for the right of people to post pictures of themselves with I voted stickers on Facebook. It really made it all worthwhile.
I was excited that Tony from The Challenge, who's been, I think, kicked out of at least one challenge for bad behavior and is just a general train wreck. Mm-hmm. He was telling me to vote on my Instagram today. So it was great. It was great.
I don't think it's official until CT threatens your life unless you vote.
That's what the challenge should do. You have to vote or I'm going to kick your ass.
Right. I'll pepper your sauce or whatever. There's a little podcast BS report throwback. That's good. I love it when all these celebrities that get engaged on election day and tell people to vote. It really, really does my heart good.
Where does this rank for you on the all-time most action-packed midterms? Is this number one? Best midterms ever?
No.
Okay.
This is way down the list. I mean, every election, politicians come out and say this is the most important election of your life. But I really don't feel like this one is the most important one in my life. In Connecticut here, we're voting for a governor, which will have some impact on our state, significant impact on our state. But I can't really say that I'm all that ginned up for that either. So no, I'd say this one ranks a little lower down on the scale for me.
What?
I don't think there's going to be any great earth-shaking changes. I mean, I think the conventional wisdom is that the Democrats will take the House and the Republicans will keep the Senate and maybe even increase their majority in the Senate. So I don't know that it'll be all that earth-shattering.
You've been on this. I've been doing this podcast 11 years. You're Republican, conservative.
Yes.
And the last 2 years have been, last 2+ years have been trying for you.
3 years, really.
Last 3 years.
Yeah.
Where do you fit in now? What do you stand? What do you stand for in the current landscape? What is this?
Wow.
Is this just a total conflict at all times for you?
This is good. This is a good time for me I can have my manifesto now. This
Yeah.
is good. So here's what I believe. Subscribe to my newsletter. No.
No, it's got to be weird because you've always,
weird.
ever since we've known each other now 30 years, you've always cared about politics way more than I did.
Right. I grew up in a political family and everything else, right?
It
was the equivalent of like you and your dad with the Celtics
right.
and sports is like what me and my father had with politics, right? I say had because unfortunately my father has passed away, but that was what we had in my family was a big political thing. And I've always been a, dyed-in-the-wool conservative Republican. And ever since the rise of Trump and as I looked on aghast as my party fell head over heels in lust with Trump. And it's Trump's party now. So I look on even more aghast. And I feel like kind of a man without a country, certainly. So, there's Republican politicians I like. I like Ben Sasse from Nebraska. I've got a personal Twitter relationship with the Lieutenant Governor of Utah, Spencer Cox. So that's important to me. Go Jazz.
Wow.
Just kidding about the Go Jazz. But he seems like a decent fellow, but by and large, the Republican Party has just gone its way with Donald Trump. So it's troubling to see because, as I've expressed numerous times, I think that he is a moron who should not be within 100 miles of the Oval Office. So it's weird. It's an odd feeling, and I certainly. The Democratic Party is still not my home, and I disagree with them vehemently on any number of subjects. So, any number of issues. So I can't really say like I'm rooting for them, and I'm not really rooting for these Trump Republicans because that only gives further voice to Trump and validates his thoughts such as they are and his position. So I can't really say as I'm rooting for that. I mean, I've sort of been focused on local elections, and there's a couple of people I know that are running for office locally, and I'm rooting for them to win and, rooting for certain things in local elections. But on a national scale, it's like, I used to get a lot more ginned up and, there'd be like political debates at work and everything now. There used to be political debates, and now I just sort of, keep my head down quietly because it's crazy out there.
Do you feel like there's discourse anymore? Because you used to always get in political arguments. And sometimes you get a little bit heated, in college and after,
Sure.
but it was always, there was a good natured element to it. It was never, it never ended with you standing up and going, well, you're a fucking idiot. And that's where
exactly.
there was always a balance. And now it doesn't even feel like there's discourse anymore.
And I think it's a lot with social media and everything now partly because the anonymity of it allows you to be, it used to be that you would have to go in a bus station and hold up a sign for people to know you were crazy or to try to find like-minded people that, thought the Martians were talking to you through the airwaves or whatever. But now social media, you can amplify that voice and find other people that share your lunacy.
Yeah.
And you have the anonymity of being able to hide behind your keyboard and behind an anonymous name and throw vitriol at your fellow man. And I mean, that is on a serious note, a troubling aspect of our politics these days, where it is reminiscent more of what things are like in Europe, where Europe, you have like these sort of like, it's very tribal and people, there's a lot more political violence or be it anywhere else around the world. And America had always, mercifully been away from that by and large. Now people are going to send me, 85,000 Twitter tweets now about political violence throughout history. And I'm not saying we have been completely immune to it, but by and large, we've avoided the violent street clashes that you've seen in other places. And now it seems like that's where we're headed, and we've become ever more tribal. And it's, end of the day, it was like, well, we're all Americans. And now I think you sort of forget that, and it's become more personal and ad hominem. And, we can go back and forth over what caused that. But, whether Trump was the cause of that or whether he's just, a symptom of that. But yeah, it's definitely, it's uglier now than it used to be. And I think people are way too wrapped up in it. It used to be that you could be involved in politics and, well, that's important to your civic duty and what have you. But now, be it the absence of religion in American life or what have you, but people have sort of like taken it almost as their own religion and treated it as such, where it has like a level of importance where people are like living and dying. And, I don't know if I can get out of bed now based on what happens with this election. It's like, at the end of the day, it's not really going to impact you all that much.
This midterms. Well, if if one of these things swung in a way that we didn't expect, that could impact us.
Yeah, at the end of the day, regardless of what happens today, tomorrow morning, Trump is going to be the president.
True.
And until the new Congress is inaugurated in early January for the November and December, he's going to be able to do whatever he was able to do yesterday. But in January he may wake up, and if there was certainly with the Democratic House, he's not going to be able to get any legislation passed. And if there was a Democratic Senate as well, certainly he's not going to be able to have any sort of agenda at all, including, putting people on the Supreme Court if any more vacancies opened up or appointing judges to lower level courts. So that would have certainly a big impact to some degree, but a big impact to some degree. There you go. That's a good one. It's a big impact to some degree. That's good. I want to hedge more bets. That would have a big impact on his agenda without a doubt. So, but if the Democrats just get the House, they'll make his life a little bit more uncomfortable with investigations, and they control committees and things, and they can drag his cabinet officials up there and subject them to some tough questioning and investigations. But so onward and upward. People are still going to be unhappy and still going to be miserable. And even like the MAGA crowd that has the presidency and has the president's ear, they never quite seem very happy. So win, lose, or draw, it's going to be the same thing tomorrow of people screaming at each other on Twitter and Facebook.
What about when he introduces his new press secretary, Megyn Kelly? Do you think that'll...
Well, no. There's no love lost between them because way back in the debate... It's a
makeup. It's a wrestling move. Questions. I know, but it's a WWE move.
Yeah, and par for the course, really, for his administration, because she was on Fox News, so that seems to be the way to get ahead in the administration. So I would be surprised if she would take that, though. Remember, she's got like $63 million not to do anything, right? So why go work?
Remember the good old days when we could dress up as blackface for Halloween, Johnny?
Yeah.
What are you talking about, Megyn Kelly? What a weirdo. How do you say that on TV?
Yeah, no, it's not great.
Rough times. It's funny because the guys on the press box did a great, our press box podcast, Curtis and Shoemaker, they did a great job of breaking this down, how it started out down this great road of, oh, this is actually interesting. She's going to talk about how the PC police is now ruining Halloween.
Right.
This is actually a good angle. I'm excited to see how she sells this. And then the car just hits the guardrail at about 80 miles an hour. It's like, oh, look at that car. It's flying on. Oh, no. Oh, God. And that was it.
You should, having been on TV long enough, you should know that, like, you shouldn't, not only should you not open a can of worms, you shouldn't even, like, go to the room where the can of worms is stored.
Right.
And, like, don't even go near it. Just don't touch it. And as you say, there may have been a good point in there somewhere, but you just can't. Can't do that.
It was heading toward an interesting place.
You just can't.
Yeah, there's certain words if you're on live TV that just don't even go open the door, as you said. Like,
right.
Just Hitler. Just no. Don't even go in the house. There's no way you're going to steer it back. Huh? Yeah, there's no way you're bringing that one back. There's any.
What's the weather look like today, Al? That's the proper response to that.
That was like one of our favorite SNL sketches when the David Allen Greer morning show when the teleprompter dies.
When the teleprompter went out, that was the best.
And it comes back and they're holding the weatherman's head. Yeah. The weatherman is dead.
Will Ferrell's covered in blood, shirtless. Yeah, it's great.
Hey, there's another reason I was calling you. Since the last time we talked, we have a new World Series champion, the Boston Red Sox.
Jesus, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I really hadn't paid attention.
We did it again, Johnny.
I guess congratulations are in order then. Good job by you.
We did it again. Wow. We have now quadrupled your 21st century World Series total.
True.
It's 4-1.
Although the Yankees are one ahead of their pace from the 20th century, really, and you're right on par with your 20th century output. So hopefully the next 82 years will be the same as the last one.
Yeah, someone had a pissy tweet about this is the first, the Red Sox have never had a problem with the first 18 years of a century.
Right.
I was feeling great, and I read that, and I was like, fuck, now we got to win another one. I don't want to be thinking about the next 82 years.
It's a different world, though. So, the world was turned upside down in 2004, and we still haven't recovered. So,
Johnny, what was it like to watch the best baseball team of our lifetime? 119 wins.
No, okay.
119 and 57 is the final record.
Well, I'll tell you what it was like to watch the best baseball team in our lifetime. It was 20 years ago. It was 1998. David Wells was pitching for a brilliant Yankees team that won 125 and 50. So that really was the best team of our generation.
Was that the year? Hold on. Was that you played the Padres in the World Series?
We did.
That was the year that you bought off the home plate umpire and he called the Mark Langston strike a ball, and that led to the home run. And I remember that. They didn't want the small market team to win the World Series. That was fun.
Exactly. There you go. You've nailed it. Exactly.
Did you know that
that was the year all of our pitchers that had been shaky got much better because they used pine tar in the postseason to get a better grip on the ball.
That was also very smart. Did you know that in San Diego there was a big article about it on the 20th anniversary? They call that play the pitch. It's basically their version of the Bill Buckner ground ball for Red Sox fans. And
really?
Yeah, it was that they had a whole long piece about how it should have been a strike and that literally the next pitch was the series altering
Tino
home
Martinez
run.
Grand Slam.
But yeah, it's called the pitch in San Diego. Who knew?
I mean, that Yankees team, they basically clinched the pennant in like August. So I'm not sure that even if that pitch was called the strike, the bases were still going to be loaded. I don't think there was 2 outs. So maybe there was. It's been 20 years and I'm old, so it's possible. But when people are sending me tweets about the history of political violence in America, they can also send me a tweet about how many outs there were before Tino hit the home run. But I don't think they were beating that Yankees team, regardless of what happened on that.
I think I agree with you. I just remember in 1998. I feel like I can say this because we've been friends for 30 years. You were at your all-time insufferable between the budding Yankee dynasty and the Clinton Lewinsky scandal.
Yeah, good glorious days.
You were out of your mind. You were just had your chest out, just strutting around the East Coast.
As they used to say to conquering Roman generals, though, all glory is fleeting. So and it's bitten me in the ass because now the Red Sox are ascendant and Donald Trump is president. So really, I should have, if I could go back in my time machine, in my DeLorean, and send it back to 1998, I would tell 28-year-old JackO to cool it with the rhetoric, slow his roll.
It was great times. The internet was really forming and rounding into shape. We were back in touch with all of these people that we never wanted to talk to again, just constantly calling each other and making fun of those relationships that were back in our lives that we never wanted. And now we just have our Facebook group from college. Now we can just follow everybody we want.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 98. Great times. 20-year anniversary, Johnny. You should have celebrated it.
We should have.
You could have worn a Jeter jersey with.
I did. Well, I do that anyway. So.
And had your wife wear like a Linda Tripp costume. You could have gone out for Halloween. It would have been great.
I'm glad. Well, I haven't really had that many fantasies about Linda Tripp, but I'm glad you didn't say that my wife was going to be Lewinsky in this scenario. You censored yourself, and I appreciate that. So I
thought Linda Tripp would have been a funnier costume.
Yeah, well, that's good.
It would have definitely taken a lot more effort.
Yeah, no doubt.
The Lewinsky one's easy. You just wear the blue dress.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good one. Those were the glory days, Johnny. Now
it's just and now our GM gives interviews where he's like, well, it's possible Brett Gardner could be our everyday left fielder, and we'd love to bring CC Sabathia back. And
you shouldn't bring him back.
A championship, but we have to do it cost effectively. I was surprised when he gave an interview and said how the important thing for the Yankees is to be cost effective. That George Steinbrenner didn't rise from the grave as a zombie and come back and drag him back into the ground with him. I was actually expecting it. I kept watching the interview saying, any minute now, George Steinbrenner is going to stagger in from left field and take Brad Cashman off this interview.
That would have been amazing.
Steinbrenner's son gave some interview, and all they ever talk about is the luxury tax and how they don't want to fund other teams, and that really has really hit him personally. They are obsessed with that. I understand getting under it last year, but I thought the point of that was to reset and then not worry, because you don't have to worry about it as much going forward now that you're not a violator. You pay a lesser tax. But they really seem troubled by that, and that's disconcerting to say the least. Hopefully it's all smoke and mirrors and bluster to, throw people off the scent of their plans. But I haven't loved the comments so far at all.
I like when you use the word violator, like
right, we violated the luxury tax.
Some terrible offense was created.
I know. Meanwhile, the world's been turned upside down because the Red Sox were always the ones that wouldn't splurge on free agents, when they were run by the Gene Yawkey Trust or whatever. But now they have owners that are like, let's go get championships, whatever. Let's pay whatever it costs. And they had the highest payroll this year. They didn't care. And, we're buying guys left and right. And more power to them. It worked for them. And now the Yankees are like penny pinching. It's ridiculous.
Well, what if the Red Sox sign not only just World Series hero Nathan Eovaldi, but just hero?
Yeah.
I really feel like there should be a holiday in 2019 for Eovaldi's birthday. That's how heroic he was in the playoffs.
He was great for him, absolutely.
But if they sign him, that will give us 4 of our 5 starters will have 9-figure contracts, which has to be a major league record. Not to mention the Sandoval, Hanley. Actually, I don't know if we're paying Hanley anymore. We're definitely paying Sandoval. I think we're paying Carl Crawford for the rest of my life.
And you're still paying Rusty Castillo, aren't you, too? You're paying a lot of guys.
Well, no, Rusty's holding down our AAA team. He's great.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah. Without you, Pawtucket's been really good.
I think you're still paying Hanley, and you're definitely still paying Sandoval.
And I'm telling you, Carl Crawford is going on for forever. It's right. until global warming ends the world, we're paying Carl Crawford. The only way it stops.
I'm not sure who's going to get paid last, him or Bobby Bonilla. Because the Mets still pay him $1 million every year for 25 years.
So here's my question for you. If they traded Andujar and spent $300 million on Manny, the third out of the 2018 World Series, Machado, the final out, would you be okay with that?
I would not. Now, when they were making rumblings about trying to trade for Machado at the trade deadline, and I don't know how real that ever was, that the Orioles would trade him in the division, but I was excited for it. I wanted Manny Machado, and who wouldn't at that time? But just as Nathan Eovaldi has made himself a fortune in the postseason, I think that Manny Machado has cost himself a fortune because it was bad enough that he did not really set the world on fire after having gone to the Dodgers, did not really put the team on his back and carry them into the postseason, and didn't do anything in the postseason. But then when he did not run to first base more than once, and then says, well, that's not my game. I'm not Johnny Hustle. I'm not going to do that. His agent had to be ripping his hair out of his head. What am I doing here? How can you possibly go out and say, well, that's not me. I'm not Mr. Hustle. And the notion of that going to New York and having that on the back page every day when he, stands there and admires what he thinks is a home run and it's a long out or it ends up being a single instead of a double because he was watching it, they're going to eat him alive. And I don't need him in the locker room, whispering to Gary Sanchez, don't worry about when they tell you to run hard. Just hit home runs, take it easy. Being a mentor to Gary Sanchez. I don't love that thought either.
I felt like we could get him out.
And then he had the couple dirty plays too, where he tried to spike somebody on the Brewers at first, and then he did it to Pierce for the Red Sox. That's all we need because that's obviously reminiscent of the A-Rod with Bronson Arroyo back in 2004, which I still get gifts sent to me about. So I just don't need it. I just don't need that in my life, and I'll take so much grief. I'm good.
Well, I'll tell you, he would add some spice to the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry because the Red Sox fans detest him. We were yelling at him game 1 and game 2 at shortstop, trying to get him to look at us. He's not a crowd favorite in Fenway, I'll tell you that much.
No.
What if he signed Bryce Harper?
Was that you and Damon and Ben Affleck, your buddies, your Boston crew?
No, we didn't yell at Manny and the Dodgers.
No.
No, we didn't. They say hi.
Did you say, hey, Manny, how do you like them apples? Anything like that when you finally won it?
Oh, you're so adorable.
Hey, Manny, we just won the World Series. How you like them apples? Huh? No, you didn't do that.
Matt Damon should have done that. Hey, Manny, you think you're better than me? Who the fuck are you?
Count him, 4 rings, 4.
That was my favorite story of all time ever told on the BS podcast when Matt Damon told the story about going through Boston with Robin Williams, and Boston
They
people
called
going,
him Mork.
"Hey, Mork." Classic. We could have predicted that
That was
one.
funny.
What about Bryce Harper?
Well, I tell you, I was a little intrigued by Bryce Harper.
Here we go. I like it.
I know he did not have the best year. I know he's a little bit of a head case as well, has some shortcomings, but he's left-handed, which the Yankees desperately need, a left-handed bat. That short porch in right field, he was, when they played at Yankee Stadium a few years ago, he was like genuflecting at Mickey Mantle's retired number.
Yeah.
So part of me, and I think he's probably an upgrade in left field to Brett Gardner. Call me crazy. And I like Brett Gardner. He was a fine Yankee, but he's 36 years old and he hit 236 last year. I think Bryce Harper might be a slight upgrade. So I am a little intrigued by that, I'll admit. Like a middle of a lineup, and I know he strikes out too much and it's all home runner strikeout, which is a problem they have, but at least he's left-handed and breaks up the right-handers. I'm a little bit more intrigued by that thought. But they apparently want no part of him, allegedly. And I think he's a Cub waiting to happen, because who's he best friends with on the Cubs? Somebody, right? Who is it? Chris Bryant, I think.
Oh, seriously?
And his dog is named Wrigley, so I think he's, if the Cubs can find some money, I think he's going to be a Cub.
Yeah, what do you do with those, Riggs? The Bryce Harper thing scares me as a Red Sox fan because of that Judge batting second, Harper third, Stanton fourth.
Yeah, that's
Sanchez 5. That's a fucking gauntlet. I don't want that
Luke
to happen.
Voigt 6th.
And by the way, I know Bryce Harper wasn't good last year, and he might be one of those like peaked when he was 23 type of guys. But
maybe, and he's been around. He's been up since he was 19, so he does have some miles on him, and he has injury problems. I get all that, but he's also once in a generation talent, arguably. So
I guess
the Yankees, it's just money for the lower guys. It's just the old Yankees. It's just money. George would have already signed Machado and Harper.
Well, it should be a concern that the national fans would drive him to the airport and make sure he got on the plane. That's a problem, right? They watch him day in and day out, and they're all ready to drive him to the airport. The one I was hoping the Yankees would splurge on is this Patrick Corbin, the guy who's on Arizona.
Yeah.
Great stats. Lefty.
Yeah.
Makes a ton of sense. But I love the whole, let's grab the small market guy who's got great stats and let's throw him into the fire in New York. Please do that.
He's a big, he's a Yankees fan.
Yeah, great. Bring him in. Bring in Patrick Corbin.
The whole family grew up Yankee fans, and I was excited about that. And then I talked to a guy that his daughter plays on my daughter's basketball team at a basketball meeting last night, and he's a Yankee fan, and we were talking, and I said, Corbin, his whole family's Yankee fans, and this guy did not want to sign him because of that, because he thought it put too much pressure on him. Because he's like, when you play for your favorite team, he's going to be trying too hard. And I was like, that's a good point, actually. That scared me off Patrick Corbin.
Let's do it. Spend $300 million on him.
Today there was rumors that they were talking to the Indians about Kluber and Carrasco. And then I also saw that about either Corey Kluber and or Carrasco. And that apparently the Mariners are going to blow it up. Signing Robinson Cano to a $275 million contract. That didn't work out.
Wow.
I can't believe it.
Who could have saw that coming?
So if they blow it up and they were taking offers on Paxton, that would be good too. I'd like the Yankees to sign Happ. If they go out and get Corbin and then get Kluber or Paxton, that'd be pretty good. You would throw them in with Sabrina and Tanaka. I'd be happy with that.
One guy I like is, and I unfortunately think he's going to get overpaid, but I think I like Dallas Keuchel because he's done it in the past. I had him on my fantasy team the last 2 years. He was definitely up and down, but I do think he's the type of pitcher that is going to age well. Like he's one of those guys. Like if the Yankees got him. Plus,
he's a ground ball pitcher, which is what you want at Yankee Stadium.
Right.
He freaking owns the Yankees. That'd be addition by subtraction, just getting him off the Astros.
Yeah, my gut instinct, if you sign Keuchel, would be like, oh, shit. I could totally see him jumping a level on the Yankees and being that like crafty lefty that you've had forever.
I'd let him keep his beard, too. I kind of like the Civil War look.
Yeah. What do you think? Are you allowed to have beards in the Yankees? I thought you had to.
You are not. No.
Yeah. I heard Aaron Boone was watching some really good how to manage a baseball team YouTube clips.
Well, you can't hurt. I would recommend that. That's good. That's good. We're bringing him back in with Larry Rothschild. The pitching staff regresses under Larry Rothschild, but let's give him one more shot. Why not?
You definitely have to upgrade the CC spot. It's tough, man.
Yeah.
When you're in the same division as the greatest baseball team of all time, it's tough. What do you do? Everyone's coming back.
A budding juggernaut, and we're like a small market penny pinching team just trying to get by with rookies and retreads. Best we can do.
Yeah, if only
I was praying that there's a guy at work who's a Red Sox fan, and I was like, hey, does JD Martinez have an opt-out after this year? But it's only after the second year. I was disappointed.
Do you want to apologize, or do you have any last words for David Price, who you've maligned on this podcast over and over again?
Congratulations on discovering pine tar. It's really turned things around.
Oh, wow. Come on.
I have to give kudos to you on this because you were like David Price's family did not have as much faith in him.
I was the only one. I was in his corner the whole time.
Like, and your father, after Game 2 of the Yankees Red Sox divisional series, your father was like castigating you on Twitter.
He was
for giving Price a back rub, as he put it.
He undermined me,
and he really should be apologizing to you as a fellow Red Sox fan because you were the last guy. Like years ago, you were like, "Give me all your David Price stock," and you wrote out the volatility of the market, and it paid off in the end for you.
I watch a lot of Red Sox, and I liked the way he was throwing the last couple months. He was hitting like 95, and his record was really good. And then that first Yankee game, everybody just freaked out and was ready to send him to Cuba on a one-way ticket for a political asylum. And I just didn't get it because I felt like he had good stuff. Like we had guys like Pomeranz who somehow didn't pitch even in the 18-inning game. I have no idea why he was in the roster, but Pomeranz, like that's done. There's no chance. But Price would pitch well. He just had this weird mental block with the Yanks. But I just think that's understandable. The Yankees have all these right-handed dudes who come up one after another who can hit the ball 480 feet.
Yeah.
It's like just a bad matchup for him. But
the good news is he did not exercise his opt-out, and he's all in on Boston.
Great, he's back, baby.
He'll continue to stink against the Yankees for the remainder of his contract, so that's good for me.
It's a good guy to have in the playoffs. The biggest thing I learned is don't freak out about not having an eighth inning reliever when your manager is more than willing to blow out everybody's arm on your roster to have an eighth inning guy for 4 weeks. So that I learned that now, Johnny.
There you go.
Nathan Eovaldi his arm's probably going to be in a sling until February, but we won the World Series. We're fine.
It's a good idea, a guy coming off 2 Tommy Johns, to throw him as many innings as you possibly can in a postseason.
Well, here's the thing.
That won't have any repercussions.
I mean, you can't have 3 Tommy Johns. He's fine. They fixed it.
As long as his elbow works to sign on the dotted line for you, that'll be all good.
I'm going to have my son get a Tommy John surgery right now to see if he can increase his fastball.
Get it out of the way.
Might have nephew Kyle get it too.
There you go.
JackO, I would tell you to enjoy the rest of the election day, but I don't know if any of us are going to enjoy it. I think we're going to be enduring it. But as always, a pleasure. Talk to you soon.
Good times.
All right. Hey, let's talk about the Pixel 3. You've seen the commercials. Unleash the most powerful Pixel ever on the network chosen by Google Verizon. Pixel 3 has more than just any camera. It takes group selfies, snaps, and portrait mode. Helps you always pick the perfect moment with Top Shot, which automatically recommends the best pics where no one is blinking. Everything looks just right. And the Pixel 3 also has the power of Google Lens, which means you can search what you see. And when you get the Pixel 3 on Verizon, it comes with America's best network. Now, families can mix and match their unlimited plans on the best network with unlimited on Verizon. Everybody in the family gets what they want without paying for the things they don't. You think we can get you one, Kyle?
I think we should try. I think we should definitely try.
How would you use a Pixel 3 all the time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, let's try to get you a Pixel 3.
It's a sleek looking phone. They did good job on the commercials, Google.
Send this kid from the streets of New York a Pixel 3, for God's sakes. Visit your local Verizon store today or learn more at vzw.com. Wanted to mention, had an awesome red carpet premiere for Momentum Generation, new documentary that we have coming on HBO, which is going to be, I think, December 11th. And you're going to hear me talking about it a bunch of times in this podcast over the next 5 weeks, just because I really love the film. And it's a quote unquote surfing doc, but it's not. And I really want you, the listener, to watch it because I think it's really good. And I don't know. I rarely like go all in and push something to you people. So I'm pushing this. Keep it on your radar. It's about 5 weeks away. Just file it away. I'm very concerned about the Boston Celtics is the only other thing I wanted to say. I don't like, there's some chemistry stuff. I mentioned this on Friday, but I am concerned about it's a classic too many guys issue that is just manifesting itself so far. And I feel like there's going to be a trade coming. So I wanted to get that on the record. I feel like Terry Rozier will not be on this team 10 days from now. So whatever day this is, what is it, November 6th?
November 6th.
November 17th, he will not be on this team. All right, here it is, me and Greg Kinnear. All right, Greg Kinnear is here. This is your first time on the BS podcast.
It is. It's happening right now, live.
You used to do this. You used to interview people way, way back when.
I did. That was
Later.
Oh my God, later. Later is in my salad golden years. I mean, way before that, I was doing it on like borderline public access cable without even a C in the word cable, doing it for a thing called Movie Time and just trying to.
What was Movie Time? I don't remember that.
Before E was E, it was called Movie Time, and it was on, I don't know, some satellite dish, and it was like literally like going back to college for me. You know, I kind of came out of school and got out here and crashed on a couch just like this one that I'm sitting in for, a few months, but I got this gig doing this kind of low budget cable channel, and we would fill the hours with just interviews and show behind the scenes interviews and run trailers, anything we could to fill time. And
was that what you wanted to do even in college? You were like, I'm going to be a host. Did you want to be like Letterman?
Honestly, no. I don't know. I didn't have a strong, clear drive specifically of what I wanted to do. I mean, I was in broadcast journalism at Arizona, and I started as a drama major. So I definitely ended up in the right zone, but I honestly didn't know I didn't know anybody in this business.
Yeah.
So it always seemed so far removed, the idea of actually ending up in it just seemed preposterous to me that you could actually get a gig out here. So I just never anticipated it. But it's funny, Justine Bateman, as I was reminded the other day, played a big part in my career.
Wow.
Yes. She was dating a friend of mine who was a sound mixer. And she had gone to like this MTV, used to do those Super Bowl events. I mean, this is way back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And she was there doing, helping out with one of those things and doing her thing. She was on Family Ties. And she told this guy who worked at MTV, she was like, yeah, you should talk to my friend's friend, Greg Kinnear, at some point. And so I ended up getting a chance to audition for MTV via her.
Those are big days for MTV. Late 80s.
They were huge. They were huge. And I went into this, sat on the stairs where J.J. Johnson sat and Mark Goodman and Martha Quinn, the whole gang. And I basically, did a terrible audition. Good God. I still have it.
Yeah.
It's awful. And I didn't get the job out of it, but I did get a nice tape out of it. And that tape said MTV audition. So when this fledgling cable channel was starting up called Movie Time, they were like, oh, this guy might be legit. He's got an MTV audition that he didn't get the job for.
I don't remember the Movie Time thing. And I feel like I have a really good memory and I love pop culture, but man.
Yeah, I'll get you a hat.
I always thought, but now that you said that, I'm like, oh yeah, E wasn't always E. Because I remember when they became E, it was like, E? That's going to be their name?
That's right. And literally before E was E, it was this Movie Time channel for 3 years. And just one day they came in and they changed the sets. They changed the name. They changed the hosts, i.e. I was fired by E. And I left and did some other stuff for like a year and a half and then came back for Talk Soup. So that was all much later down the road.
And you started Talk Soup and then you told them someday there's going to be this family named the Kardashians. and they're going to
your
blow
eye
up the
on
valley.
them.
Keep your eye. Just watch this family. I know they're little girls now, but they're going to save your channel.
Yes, exactly. I saw it in my crystal soup bowl.
Talk Soup was, I mean, it's funny now because it's basically the internet.
Right.
We're talking 1991.
I think so. 91, 90. Well, no, 92. I think we went on the air with it 92, January 1st. And I was on it 92, 93, 94.
And what was like the prototype for that? Did you have one?
There wasn't a prototype. Honestly, they brought me in. I had just, I don't know, I'd done some couple of other things. And they had been running periodically clips of like Sally Jesse Raphael or Geraldo or, Ricky Lake. They just periodically would run a clip. And so I went in with the guise of creating a show once a day that would just run a number of these clips. Rather than just run one, they'd run, a number of them. There was no idea of what the show was going to be. There was no prototype. In fact, they thought it was going to be like a serious reverent look back at the highlights from Jerry Springer. And we all got in there, and I don't think they knew we were on the air for like 2 years, but we just kind of started running.
I remember watching
crazy.
in college. I graduated in college in 92, but we were like, this is great. What is this? Guys just making fun of all these terrible shows. I love this.
And it's so funny. I mean, even now, people know that show. They know the history of it. I didn't know that people knew it. It just, there was no internet. So there was you couldn't like see how your Twitter response was, or there was no way to gauge it. We started to get a rating. I think at one point, my producer, Eileen Graham, came in and said, we got a 1 this weekend, which in that world on E at that time was unbelievable. And they were, and we got a lot of mail as well. So I started to realize not until like the third year, before I left, that people were actually seeing it out there. But I didn't know we had an audience. I just thought we were just kind of in a little echo chamber screwing around.
I remember that, and then Comedy Central, whatever it was called back then, was running the SNL reruns.
Right.
And those were like the two kind of, oh, this is great. I'll just kill some time and watch this show.
Yeah.
But, going backwards, like I'm going to say it's like 87, 88, the crazy talk show started to take off. The Morton Downey Jr., maybe that was even 86, but
Morton Downey Jr.
He's just yelling at Nazis and it's like, what is going on? And those shows were like massively successful.
Yeah.
And then that kind of led into the early 90s when nobody was really making fun of them publicly, but everyone was making fun of them who watched them.
Yeah.
And then it tapped into that. But I really feel like it was like a pre-internet, the internet comes in, message boards start coming in 93, 94, 95. And then the internet, people start getting email. But this was kind of existing pre all of that.
It's so true. Yeah. And Morton Downey Jr., you're so right. I just remember him like, he'd always have a cigarette in his mouth and it would always invariably kick somebody off. Get out of here.
Yeah, he's such a bully.
Get out of here. Yeah. It's great.
It's amazing Donald Trump didn't have one of those shows.
Yeah.
He probably tried.
That could have happened. Actually, he would have, he would have fit in that. I think, I'm trying to think some of the crazier ones. Morton Downey Jr., Richard Bay.
Yeah. Was Montel Williams on back then? Yeah,
yes,
he was on there.
Yes, he was. I feel like I'm missing like a really good one, and it's Jenny Jones.
Jenny Jones. was Wendy O. Williams wasn't on back then though? No. So you had all these people, and they were just watching these shows, cutting VCR tapes, VHS tapes.
That's right.
And you were trying to figure out which ones, and then you're screening it. I mean, it'd be so much easier to do it now on the internet.
It would be much easier to do it today. It's almost like the internet saved us. No, it was crazy how convoluted it was. I'd just come in the morning, and we basically taped the show, but we did it sort of live. Once we started, we just didn't stop, and we just let it go, whatever it was. It'd drive me crazy if we stopped. And we had a technical issue here and there, but not a lot. And in the morning, I'd go in and there's this nice guy, I'd like line up. He'd say, well, here's what we got. And we'd sit there and he'd show me, probably 12 or 13 different potential nominees.
Yeah.
We only had time for about 9 or 10, and we just kind of say, okay, let's do this. We kind of thought, hey, why don't we do like, we had like different gags and stupid things that we'd come up with on the fly. And then, then we sit down and do the show.
I feel like that show, Dennis Miller and Weekend Update, it was the first kind of people kind of wise asses.
Yeah.
Which is basically where we ended up with the internet. We're just people being wise asses about anything. But it was.
You're not blaming me for all this, are you?
No, I think you should take credit. I think this is great. But I remember when you left, it was like devastating.
Yeah.
And then you were in this great situation where everyone who followed you were like, yeah, but he's not Greg Kinnear. It's like they could have followed you with Eddie Murphy in 1984. Like, well, but Greg.
Yeah.
So you do that later show, right? As the kind of, that was basically, now we have podcasts.
Right.
But back then we had these kind of long form interview shows that people were doing that really kept going all through the 90s. And then I think in the 2000s started to flame out as a gimmick. But, you did that for 2 years?
They still do later, don't they?
Yeah, they still do them, but it's now you have to like make them. You have to kind of catch the viewer's eye a little bit more.
For sure.
You can't just be like, "Hey, 2 people are talking."
Yeah, exactly.
3 cameras.
I know. Well, listen, I took over that show from Bob Costas.
He loved that show,
and he was quite good at it. And by the way, they did it without an audience, which was always my big regret. I got over to NBC, and they were like, "Oh, we got to put you in front of an audience and have you walk out," and I was just. It felt completely wrong.
Oh, you didn't want to do that?
I didn't like walking. I even tried to say, why don't I just sit here? I'll just sit here and we'll just start the show. We can have the audience, but anything but the walkout. We had the whole walkout deal. And I don't know, just the whole thing felt like, it felt very, even for me at that time, it just felt like a formula that had been,
had been
beaten
done
to death, and we weren't going to do it as well. But the idea of having a one-on-one interview with somebody and kind of talking to them, rather than moving them down the couch after 7 minutes, that appealed to me.
Yeah.
On some nights, it depended who the guest was.
Yeah, it's tough. The booking every night is.
Well, a lot of times we just pilfer whoever, Jay Leno had down at the end of the, the other stage. We just grab whoever
you literally grabbed them.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
And then you left to become an actor.
Yeah.
Which I remember being like just flabbergasted by. It's like, what?
Yeah.
He's going to act? I thought this guy was going to be like a Letterman type. Now he's going to be in movies?
Makes no sense.
And that was something you always wanted to do.
I did have great interest in acting. A really good friend of mine always was like, you want to be an actor? And I was always like, no, I don't. But I guess I kind of did. The truth is, I just didn't think it was something that was like really possible to make happen. And even my first movie, which I did a couple little things, but just kind of like a day gig here or there. But the first thing was Sabrina with, that Sidney Pollack directed, and
that was a big ass movie.
It was a huge movie.
That was like a big deal that it was being remade. It was kind of an iconic movie that meant a lot to a lot of people.
And he had me come in and meet with him a couple of times. Eventually, they put me on videotape, and I ended up getting the gig. But I was not searching for that. He literally, Lindsay Duran, who used to work for Sidney, dropped off a tape of me, I think on Talk Soup, and just said, after he had tried to get thousands of other people to play this role, who passed for different reasons, he at least entertained it. And then I went in, and I think, we had a good connection. He's from Indiana. I'm from Indiana originally. Maybe that helped. I don't know. But that was my first.
Harrison Ford.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of at his second apex, the double apex that Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
The 80s apex, and then like just an unbelievable run early 90s.
Right.
At that point, he was like the most bankable A-list star in Hollywood other than Tom Cruise.
For sure. I'm trying to think what he had come off of. Was it?
He'd done like Clear and Present Danger, Presumed Innocent, The Fugitive.
Right.
It was a murderer's row.
Witness. Remember how great
Witness?
was?
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, his 20-year run is kind of unassailable.
So I had never met Harrison through the whole process. So the big elephant in the room when I'm like trying out for this, just the thing that you just don't want to ever think about is the fact that you haven't really acted in a movie and now you're going to do it with Harrison Ford. It was just too much. I think I just compartmentalized it and kind of said, I'm not going to acknowledge this. Eventually, I did have to meet him. And that was in New York. We met at, I don't know, so Sydney's office in New York. And he says, you want to go grab some lunch? And so we went down the street and got a little lunch. And of course you walk in the restaurant and they ain't looking at me, man.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. And you're right. He was kind of at that, great apex. And it was, I remember the lunch specifically at one point. This is a very, straightforward lunch talking about a little bit about the movie, I don't know, baseball game, random stuff. And at some point, we got the movie thing and he's talking about, when we were doing this thing, and he mentions Star Wars and I got to do of course, the joke that we all want to do, which is they say, no, I haven't seen that. What is that? So what's that one about? So, I did get
Star Wars.
Yeah.
That was the title.
Yeah. He, I think I got maybe a quarter of a smile out of him on that. It worked.
Sabrina, didn't it do really well, but people were like mad about it. Like it had like a weird reaction.
Yeah. I mean, but
people thought you were good in it, but they didn't understand why it got remade, but people saw it anyway.
Yeah. They didn't realize that tons of movies were about to be remade for
seriously.
the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it was controversial a little bit that it was being remade, and then some people didn't dig it. Some people did. I mean, even now, I mean, I saw it, my kids saw it, and I watched with my kids a few years ago and remember thinking it's kind of I like the film, but it does have a slightly, strange vibe to it, but I did like it. And I did think it was a worthy remake. I mean, I really, I don't remember the box office though. I don't think it did tremendous.
I think it was because Audrey Hepburn was so iconic in that role.
Sure.
But now it's like
Julie Ormond though. She was
do that again.
In it, I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, it was like kind of a damned if you do, do this thing anyway. So I think it was a hard.
What was that like to watch that with your daughters?
Yeah.
If they see dad in a movie, that's gotta be weird.
Yeah, they don't like to watch dad in movies. I can tell you that. That's the general takeaway that I've experienced is that it's strange for them, and they haven't seen me in a lot of stuff, So I'm not pushing me around the house. So we're at a nice neutral place where
hopefully we'll never see
know what I
autofocus.
do, but they're not that keen on watching it.
Yeah, hopefully we'll never see autofocus. Just tell them, just don't ever watch that one.
Doesn't happen.
So when you hooked up with Nicholson a couple years later, and he was another guy, one of the all-timers.
Yes.
And that was a really big movie for him because he had, he hadn't had kind of a movie where it was like, oh my God, Jack Nicholson's amazing in a few years. And that became kind of the signature middle-aged Jack Nicholson movie.
Man, I just remember reading the script and thinking, oh my gosh, this is really an incredible script. This is just going to be an incredible movie. I'm never going to get it. And Jack playing this role is going to be one of the great things to watch at some point when I pay my $8 like everyone else to go to the movie theater and watch him and, whoever got to play my role and Helen in this movie because, you just knew that he was going to crush it, and he does.
It's such a well-acted, well-written movie.
Yeah.
It's weird. Some parts of it hasn't aged well, because I think...
You think?
Yeah, because
some parts of as good as it gets don't age well?
Well,
or haven't aged well?
Culturally. Yeah, that like he's gay bashing him for the first hour plus of the movie.
Right.
And when you watch it now under the current lens, you're like, oh man, come on, dude.
Right.
But in the moment, it was kind of like, oh, he's a crank, but we know he's going to come around. But then you see it in the 2018 lens, and it's
I haven't seen it in a while. That's probably a fair point, but I don't know. I'm interested to see it with that idea in mind. It probably is different.
We talk about this. We do a podcast called The Rewatchables about going backwards and legislating content. It's like, look, it was 1997 or 1996, whatever it was. It was just like, that's the way it was.
That's the way it was.
And he's so good in that movie. The one thing with that, him and Helen Hunt getting together, the age difference, it is a tiny bit of a leap of faith, but then you think like, well, I take a leap of faith in every movie. So this is like a very tiny one.
I mean, in this town, if you live here and you're like looking at that and worried about the age difference, I don't see it myself. I was always very comfortable with it, but yeah, there's a little bit of a span there. But I feel like I've seen that enough.
What'd you learn from Nicholson? Were you studying him? Were you watching weird things he did?
Front row seat, baby. It was great. I don't know. I can't tell you specifically what I learned. I mean, hard working and, took the role incredibly seriously. And it was never easy. It was never easy for him. Jim Brooks did a wonderful job with the movie and everyone cared a lot. And nothing was taken for granted. Not one moment, everybody was constantly trying to make whatever it was better. And it's amazing because the script really is great. And yet you'd get in and we would start with a scene. And I remember thinking, this is horrible. This is never going to work. and then, it was just trying to find it, and it would get better and get honed. And, Jim has an incredible ear, and it would just get better.
Big sports fan, that Jim Brooks.
Yeah.
See him at a lot of Clipper games.
Yeah.
He's a diehard, tortured Clipper fan.
Yeah.
It's amazing he hasn't written the Clippers sports movie that the world needs. He'd be the perfect person to write it.
He would do
Come
great
on, Jim
with a
Brooks.
sports movie. Well, they had once, didn't he have a sports movie? With Paul Rudd and Reese.
She was a softball player.
Yeah.
I need the
a
Clippers.
little bit.
Need a Clippers
sports.
movie.
Yeah, I need a Clippers movie.
So that movie cleaned up at the Oscars, and you got nominated. It was one of those movies. It's just like, that next person's going up.
The big movie that year was Titanic too. A lot of people don't remember that was the other movie that was in the category, which was
it's a good year.
Little feature length motion picture that people remember.
Yeah. Was supposed to be a bust, was supposed to be a bomb. They spent so much money. It's going to be the biggest bomb in Hollywood history. It is funny. Anytime that happens, half the time the movie ends up being really good.
Right.
And then the other time it really is a disaster.
Yeah.
But when you start hearing the buzz about, oh my God, this is Jesus, then it's like, oh yeah, this is actually a pretty good movie.
Any buzz is good buzz, baby. Well, good or bad, it's like maybe that's the message out of that.
The autofocus with Bob Crane
mm-hmm.
is one of the most disturbing, darkest, kind of fascinating cable movies that comes on when you're flipping channels and it's like, oh yeah, this movie. Bob Crane, it's kind of hard to explain. I'm in my late 40s. Like the guy from Hogan's Heroes. Like that was like everybody knew who that was, or like Mr. Brady, or I don't know, the dad from My Three Sons. And there were like these 20 people that were just in your life, and you just assumed they were perfectly normal. And he was not normal. He was the opposite. And when that stuff started to come out, it was absolutely flabbergasting. It's like, really? Bob Crane?
I know. I remember hearing about it in high school, that some story, I think he had been, maybe it was after he was murdered and had been murdered recently. So there was just a little buzz. I was in high school in Greece, by the way. So I'm in a parking lot in Greece having this conversation, but somehow the Bob Crane, I understand he was, he had a crazy, he liked the girls, something.
The ladies.
Yeah, he liked the ladies.
Like filming the ladies.
Didn't never hear much more than that. I mean, it was a tiny blip on that registered for me back at that time. And then the whole story went away for many, many years, like with everybody, I think. And only when, Paul Schrader sent me the script was I like, oh, yeah.
It's a really good movie.
Yeah. I think
Paul
so,
Schrader, by the way.
Yeah.
Another legend. Yeah. I mean, it basically seems like his buddy killed him, but
yeah,
he didn't get ever convicted for it, right?
Nobody researched it better than Schrader, and he said there's no question if he had sat on that jury, he would have voted to convict him. At the end of the day, they had botched the case badly enough, the Scottsdale Police Department, that of course they had to, they had to let go of like some key evidence, but there was, it was all there and very, very clear.
Yeah. One of the things that's cool about that movie is, it was that era where you became famous for the one thing. And then after that, you're just kind of chasing the fame that came with that one thing. But it each year becomes further and further away from thing. And it goes like deep into, this weird post Hogan's Heroes career where he's just like working in nightclubs, like doing like patching things together. And it's just getting darker and darker.
Yeah. It was a really well written script, and I had the benefit of Willem Dafoe playing Carpy,
super creepy,
who was so awesome, and I was such a fan of his. So that was just an added bonus. But yeah, it gets pretty far out there, and we, there was an element of the movie that seemed was funny to me. Just I don't know how to, because it's not really something you should laugh at. I mean, I definitely think this man had a problem, and he did have an addiction that obviously, but I think sex addiction now is something that is probably in the public consciousness a little bit more, and you can have a sober conversation about it. But when I saw this thing, I mean, I don't remember what year we made it, but it just seemed like he what? Sex addiction, and how Bob was creeping around outside of being in Hogan's Heroes, this kind of, charming role that he plays, that he had this dark energy that was driving him. And there were moments within the script that had some really funny beats in it that I liked. But ultimately it's a drama, and it is dark, and it does kind of tip over into a different place. But, there's just, it's a lot of different colors in that movie. And I enjoyed it.
You made Little Miss Sunshine in 2006. Does a movie like that get made now? And if it gets made, what's the budget? I mean, it was considered kind of a low budget indie when you made it. Yeah. And now it's like, I love that movie. I wonder who's making that movie now. I talked to Matt. Matt Damon was on the pod a month ago, and he was talking about how hard it was to get the Casey Affleck movie they made, the Manchester by the Sea. And he was saying how like the 15 million to 70 million movie is just disappearing unless somebody with a lot of clout gets behind it. I think Little Miss Sunshine's a good example. Like, I don't know if that movie happens in 2018.
It almost didn't happen when it happened, because I remember Abigail Breslin, who plays Olive, kept getting older. Jonathan Dayton and Valerie, they're the directors. They were like, God, we got to make this movie. There
was like a time limit on.
Well, they just were in love with her as Olive, and she kept getting older. Yeah, from when they originally kind of were out trying to, they were very close. They were on the 1 yard line a couple of times, and then it slipped away, and they just couldn't get the financing for it. And finally, one of the producers, who at that point had just been a producer on it, just said, he was a wealthy guy, and he just said, screw it, I'll write a check. And he wrote a check for $7 million to make the movie. And that's how it got made. It wasn't sold. It didn't get it wasn't financially solvent in the sense that it didn't raise any money as a project. So he just said, I'll do it. And that turned out pretty well for him.
Yeah, I was going to say that was a nice check.
And but listen, that doesn't happen very often, for good reason, because there's 1,000 stories of losing your money in any kind of movie investment for every one that hits. But that one hit, and it hit big. And I don't know if it would be made under normal circumstances. I mean, listen, the script was good. I remember reading it the first time when it was brought to me and thinking, that'd be fun. I didn't knock me out of, like, As Good as It Gets was like, I thought, wow, it was, by the way, As Good as It Gets was originally called Old Friends. They changed the name, but
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I loved Old Friends. I told Jim, I said, I think you're crazy, man. You want to change the name? And he was right. But that script seemed really ready. It was just 1,000% there for me when I read it. And Little Miss Sunshine I thought was really good. I didn't think it was a bad script, but I don't remember being knocked over by it until we got in and finally were going to make the movie now. And we started doing some rehearsals, and we all started to, did a couple of read-throughs of the script, and all of a sudden it hit me. I was like, wow, this thing is so great. And every moment of it kind of works, and the development of the story works. And then I realized how well it had been cast with everyone. So, but it was a bit of a slow burn for me to I'm slow anyway. So.
Well, I was going to say that was a good example of, I think you need to get lucky, especially with a movie like that. And in that movie, it's perfectly cast.
Yeah.
Like even if you go, I don't know, there's maybe 5 key people in it. Even if you go 4 for 5, I think it really hurts the movie. Like you really had to go a strong 5 for 5.
Right.
With the 5 parts. And the little girl's great. And then all on down the line, it's just like.
Yeah, Paul Dano, who I just did the Tonight Show this week, and I ran into him like he was on the show too. And we were I hadn't seen him for a long time, and we were just kind of ruminating.
And he has he's had a big career now.
Oh my gosh, he says he's doing.
You can tell from the
work.
movie though.
Huh?
From that movie, you could be like, that guy's going to be something.
Yeah, right. He was so good, and I didn't know him when we did the film, and I was like, okay, this kid. Same for Abigail. I mean, really, everybody was doing great stuff. So
Jonah Hill was here 2 weeks ago. He was talking about how his kind of class. Paul Dano's in it, and like that part, everyone wanted that part.
Oh, really?
They're all going for the same parts from like 06 to 09, but that was one of the parts.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. I always like the concept of acting classes.
Yeah.
Where it's just like the same. Damon talked about that last month about like his class was, obviously Affleck and McConaughey and all those people, but also like Ed Norton. Ed Norton got the primal fear part.
Right.
Everyone else wanted that part. But then he got him back with the Coppola, the John Grissom movie. He got that over Ed Norton.
Yeah.
When you did Stuck on You with Damon.
I did. I saw Matt not too long ago at a UFC fight, and we were kind of reliving our anguish of having 3 or 4 hours of a prosthetic put on our body.
Because now you would just do that with all CGI. You probably would never be attached.
I don't. Yeah, maybe. I mean, they did it with a big giant piece of silicone that was literally taped, kind of stuck to our body. And the guy, after they put it on. And this was whenever you saw us, like there's a scene where we're in our swimming suits, so you have to see the whole connection. But it was it was a couple weeks where we had to put that thing on, and it would take like 5-6 hours. I mean, we would get there at 5 o'clock in the morning. We couldn't shoot till lunch, and then I remember getting this thing on, and I'm like walking with Matt, and then the guy comes up and he says, "Now listen, guys, it's important. I just want you to know this. Everything's fine. You guys are going to be fine. But if one of you were to fall or trip and you got separated, this could rip your flesh off. So try to be really careful when you're walking together."
Oh my God.
And I remember thinking, okay, don't trip. But it was great fun to do that film, and we did have hours and hours.
That doesn't sound fun. That sounds not fun at all.
That part was not fun. But we shot Miami. I mean, only the Farrelly brothers would shoot Miami for Los Angeles. Don't ask me why.
Yeah.
Matt's a tremendous, guy, and we had a lot of we just had a lot of laughs doing that movie. And Matt will tell you today. He'll say that he says that is the most fun he's ever had on any movie. And I think I would say the same thing, just in terms of like just going to work. Those guys are fun to work with. The environment is crazy. Plus we were just, it was such a nutty idea to begin with. So it was fun.
You agree to do a movie like that, and it's like, oh yeah, there's going to be some prosthetics, and then you're on the set and it's 6 hours.
Yeah, well,
there's got to be some moment where you go, oh man, really?
Right. Yeah, I heard like Jim Carrey like almost went bonkers in like The Grinch or something. He had to, because it was like 8 hours a day or something.
Oh yeah,
and it's just, and I get it. I mean, it just listen. Fortunately. Usually if it was just Matt and I, they'd put a shirt over us, and we'd have a piece of Velcro holding us together, or I don't know, elastic band or something. And that was the majority of it. So the prosthetic thing was the pain point that we had to hit for a couple of weeks. But aside from that, basically we'd throw a shirt on and we'd have to rub bodies throughout the day.
CGI now. I'm telling you, you guys could be in just separate cities and do it.
Yeah. Well, I smell a sequel.
Stuck on You too. It's back.
Stuck on 2.
House of Cards. What's your role? What's your job? What's your profile in this movie? TV show.
Yes, it is a. Well, listen, it's a kind of a great. It's a great show, man, and they have
they had to retool it, shall we say?
They had to retool it. So I was cast along with Diane Lane as brother and sister Bill and Annette Shepherd, who are showing up to. We are in Washington, sort of that Fifth Estate, just kind of quietly doing our bidding from very stealthily, but using our influence and our money to try and change policy. We certainly have a problem with Claire Hale, who has ascended to the presidency.
Robin Wright's character.
Kevin Spacey will be this sort of, he's the former president now, and he will basically be running a foundation, and all sorts of things span out of that. Got there, shot a couple of days, like a day, just a camera test, and then a couple of scenes. And then I was shooting a movie in Memphis. I went back to Memphis, and then I got a call, I don't know, 2 days later to turn on CNN, and the bottom dropped out of this whole thing, and it went, everything went a little crazy. So credit Robin for, as one of along with the producers for, keeping this thing on the tracks. I think the easy move would have been to walk away from it all. I mean, if she didn't have to keep this thing going, and
right, she could have run in the other direction.
And I think you'd be a little vulnerable, right? I mean, that's he's such a significant part of the show, and this happens. Maybe the move is just to walk away, and I think she made the decision that she wanted to stay, and that the show was, worth finding an ending for. And the writers, Frank and Melissa had a very tough work ahead of them, because they had to then totally rewrite and kind of reconfigure the season out. And they did a really good job in doing that. And we, so we're just there wreaking havoc, and we want Claire's head on a platter. There you go.
Did you think about backing out after this whole thing, or no?
No, I just didn't think it was going to happen. I just assumed that this was, when I heard, I was like, well, that's done. That's just not possibly happening. And then a little time went by, and I was just told, hey, stand by. The producers are trying to, maybe keep this together. And then Netflix, I know, ended up taking care of the crew, which was really cool, I thought. They took care of that crew in Baltimore for quite some period of time while they reconfigured what it is we were going to do. And that can't be overstated, because I think there's a lot of production companies that would just say, hey, tough luck. We'll pay, we may come back. We may not. If you got to go find another job, good luck. Yeah. So that was kind of cool. And
you came back because you just wanted to be married to Diane Lane for a TV season.
No, I'm not. I don't even get to be married to Diane Lane. She's my sister.
Oh, she's your sister?
She's my sister. Now,
it's
true. My story is I'm in love with her. That's my backstory, but I don't know if that's what the producers had in mind. But yeah, she's lovely and great, and it was great fun to work with her. And she's such a talent. As I knew her socially over the years, but we'd never worked together. So this was terrific.
She's awesome.
I agree.
I'm a huge Diane Lane fan.
Me too. Right there with you.
I'm always up for Diane Lane in stuff. I wish she did more stuff. So you have 3 daughters? How old are the daughters?
They're 15, 12, and 9. Wow.
I have a 13.
Oh, you do? We can talk, kid.
It gets complicated at 12, huh? I'm having a pretty good experience, but there's little
comes and goes.
Little snippets where I'm like, oh, now I understand what other people were trying to warn me.
Yeah.
What's it like to have 3?
Well, with 3, you say with 1 it comes and goes. Well, just assume that if it comes and goes periodically, and you have 3, just the law of averages, it's always coming and it's always going. But I don't know anything different. I mean, they're really great girls, I will say. I might be slightly biased in that assessment, but it's fully from the heart. I love them like mad, and they're they're all different. Very, you always hear that. Well, can you believe how different they all are? And that's true. They're all very different. But
one of them's going to be trouble. Law of averages if there's 3.
That's probably true. It's true.
One of them's the candidate to sneak out of the house after everybody falls asleep.
I've got one earmarked as possible trouble.
What is scouting? Yeah, I ended up with a daughter and then a son who's 2.5 years younger, and have him marked.
Yeah.
I'm watching his every move. He just turned 11. Very careful with him.
Yeah.
Did you get a male dog at least? Have
I do have
somebody to talk to?
I do. I think he's a male dog. Winston
can feel outnumbered with all those ladies in the house.
I bet I do. And by the way, this dog gets so much love that I don't get. I mean, This dog is beyond spoiled, and loved and adored in the family dynamic. But yeah, got a dog.
Would you let any of them go into show business?
I certainly, I just want, like, I don't know about you, but I my greatest wish would be that they would be passionate about something, that they'll have a thing that they want to do. And if that's show business, fine. I don't care, really, I don't care what it is, but I want them to be, I think that's the great advantage you can have in your life, in your work, is just an interest and some sort of passion for what it is that you do. And so, if that led to show business which is fraught with complications that have all been talked about, I don't think I would try to talk them out of it. I think I'd just encourage it and hope for the best. And I think, show business is like, it's not just one thing. I think people envision everybody ends up as an actor or a director, or it's a million different facets, and there's so many different things in it that, like any industry, it's not at all one thing. So bring it on.
I think that's good parental advice you just laid out there.
Yeah,
let kids follow the passion.
I'm gonna write a book.
My daughter just started playing volleyball randomly for her school, and she loves it. She's like, I want to keep playing. I'm like, great. Knock yourself out.
Did she just...
She's always been soccer since like age 4. And she's still going to play soccer, but she's like, I really like volleyball too. I'm like, awesome.
And how did she know she likes volleyball? How did she know she liked volleyball?
She had played it when like 4th grade, 5th grade, and then came back for the 8th grade team just to be with her friends and was just good at it. And she's like, I want to keep doing this.
That's great.
Like, all right, cool. We're in LA. You can play volleyball whenever you want. But yeah, I
remember my youngest daughter, we were at a Halloween party, and she was probably like 6, and there was this one of those inflatable sort of kickboxing things out there or something, like one of those, it's sort of a practice bag.
Yeah.
And she just out of nowhere just did this massive roundhouse kick on this thing. And I was like, huh. And later said to her, "You have any interest in, ever doing something with that? Maybe, the karate classes and stuff." And, she was like, "Yeah, I'd like to do that. I'd like to try karate." And she's done it since then for, I don't know, 8 years. And she's working on her 2nd degree black belt and she loves it. And it's just a thing that you wouldn't see coming. It was just this thing all of a sudden. She was like, "Yeah, that would be cool." And so I kind of feel the same way about, any advice I do give them is that you kind of have to let them lead the way,
Yeah.
They know what they want to do.
Well, good luck with House of Cards. When does it drop?
It drops November 2nd.
Oh, so that's today.
Correct.
We're taping this on a Friday.
Yeah.
I think it's running next week, though.
Oh,
so
then
yeah,
you're right.
it's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. Yes.
It's officially on Netflix.
It drops. That's what we all say. You probably wouldn't know.
What's the new logo? Did they must have redone the logo, right? Used to be spacey.
Well, it's
that's Robin, right?
And it's, by the way, it is really it's a tour de force. I mean, it's really Robin's thing. I mean, in that show, I mean, she carries it, and it's so cool. I think to see her. She's, of course, she's devious and horrible in certain respects, but as the president, but she's really kind of owns the role in a fantastic way. So it's good stuff.
We did the Andre the Giant documentary last spring for HBO, and because he was in Princess Bride.
Right.
So it's this documentary. It's Andre. It's all these wrestlers, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like an hour, and like Robin Wright just comes in. It's like this white light shining. It's just one of the most beautiful actions ever. And then it's like, all right, back to the wrestlers, back to Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan. But she just kind of passes through for 2 minutes. Is Robin Wright one of the greats?
How did he get cast for this? I have to see this. I have not seen Andre the Giant.
It's a documentary.
I'm going to watch that. I haven't seen it.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. You would love it.
I will love it.
It was a really good one.
I love that movie, and I kind of like, I'm not a huge wrestling fan, but
the cool thing about how he did this is you don't have to be a wrestling
Was he
fan.
like a Hulk Hogan-y type? He was, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You like it. It's on HBO.
I'm going to.
HBO On Demand.
Which I have.
Yeah. You watch that, I'll watch House of Cards.
Deal.
Greg Kinnear, thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks to Dan Klores. Thanks to JackO. Thanks to Greg Kinnear. Don't forget about the rewatchables. We are going to drop one this week. Don't forget about ZipRecruiter. Check them out at ZipRecruiter.com/BS. Don't forget about Casper, a sleep brand that continues to revolutionize its line of products to create an exceptionally comfortable sleep experience. One night at a time, the original Casper, the Wave, and the Essential, all their mattresses are perfectly designed to soothe and cradle your natural geometry. You can be sure of your purchase. Casper's 100-night risk-free sleep on it trial, and it is delivered to you in a small, how do they do that size box. Get $50 towards select mattresses by visiting Casper.com/BS. Using BS at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. I hope you're listening to this as you're voting or as you're about to vote. Until then.